Riders on the storm. Into this house we're born.
Hi, welcome to Shooting the Shift. This week we're going to be talking about video games. I'm Bam. That's Milton.
Hello.
That's Bryn meditating.
Greetings.
And that's Matt.
Hey.
I'm going to take this panda mask off. I'm wearing it for ridiculous reasons. I promised the guys I would wear a panda head, basically. So we're going to talk about gaming this week. It's been a bit of a year where we've not got to do a lot out on racetracks. We've not got to go out and have a lot of fun, or in another bit where we really can't go out and have any fun. So we've all been gaming a lot. Mainly driving games we're going to talk about today. There'll be an odd segue, as every time we talk about anything. We'll struggle to stay on topic. Bryn was meditating because...
Don't tell them why.
Someone did a massive recording bollock drop. That was me.
That's not what I was talking about. You go on.
Okay.
So
were you trying to find Jesus again, Bryn? Is that where we were? And if Matt seems a bit tired, entirely my fault. I've kept him up all night, all week. As you know, he's part of my team at work. You perverts. And yeah, he's been supporting our Australian colleagues. So if he's a bit tired, or he shouts at me, or it's easier for us to wind him up by calling him an old man, which is a boring game when it's easy. We're not going to be doing that this week. So video games. I think kind of.
Can I start? I'd like to start here because we're obviously going to start with modern tech and work our way back.
Yeah.
VR.
So I'm out for a bit because I'm old.
That's where we're at currently. Virtual reality is obviously the current. I know exactly what you're thinking, Brent. But VR is where gaming is going in general, and we've had this conversation before after recording. A VR headset on a Seto course is the best way to learn drifting in a sim. And
on a sim, not the best way to learn drifting.
Yeah.
Because I can do drifting in real life. As Bryn knows,
So-
I can't do sim drifting.
you're in the same boat as me. So if you learn to drift in a simulator, you can transfer those skills to real life. If you learn to drift in real life first, then try to go to a sim, it's harder. It's not impossible, but it's a lot harder.
I'm going to throw this out there. There is a concept here for a future episode because, as we all know, there is one of us that can't drift.
Is it Matt?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I can't at the moment. There's no engine in the car.
No. So look, I hold my hands up. We know I do grip driving. I don't drift at the moment. So what we're going to do is when we can all get back together again, we will drop me in one of the guys' sims for a bit. And then we'll drop me in someone who's really brave's car for a bit.
You break it, you buy it. That's the rule if you borrow someone's drift car. So.
I mean, he's got a car.
Yeah, why don't you just drift?
I'm not taking... all right, so we'll teach me to drift four-wheel drive on a Seto, and then the stage is going sideways. That way nothing can pass me, at least, when I'm
But
going slow.
it is a valid point because you look at the Gran Turismo Academy, for example. They've taken sim races, grip driving, albeit, from that and gone through the tournament until they've got one person left. And then they put them in a real-life car, and somebody who went out and competed at Le Mans,
And he won,
was competitive.
He won, didn't he? The GT4 class, wasn't it?
Actually, yeah, I think he was on the team that won.
Yeah, they were
Fair
on
class.
the team that won. First ever time. Well,
Yeah,
first
and
proper race.
And I don't think they'd ever done proper, legit racing in real life either, other than sim racing.
And maybe a karting or something.
Yeah.
Every now, like...
I mean, like it's no secret that I've worked at a well-known, famous PC builder before, and some of the rigs that they had for test and demo in the VR room were really, really realistic. Like
The-
my butt clenched a couple of times when I was going close to the barrier.
Yeah. Sim racing in VR has come a very long way since the early days of video gaming. And if simulators didn't work, they wouldn't put Formula One drivers in them.
That's fair. Yeah, I'll give you that. But
On that though, Matt, you can the simulators are very good, but just the fact of driving around the track, even if it was in Mario Kart, learning the layout and so if you can go around it without having to think, and the only thing you've got to think of is braking points, etc.
That is something I did. So one of the first grip driving days I ever did was at Donington's national circuit, and I knew the circuit. I've watched it enough times on TV with the touring cars and whatnot, and I thought I'll go and do a night of driving. It doesn't matter what game it was. It was just getting the experience of the layout of the track and how the corners were before actually going there in real life. And the skills are transferable. Like the gradients weren't quite the same. The hills and the game was a bit flatter, but all the corners and everything were in the right place. So I knew roughly where I was going. So I didn't have to spend time learning the track.
And especially if you do cockpit Camry, for example, you're going to Seika, we're not going to go there, but because we've not got that much money.
That's where this comes in, having that cockpit view.
Because look, when you're getting up to that, just before you need to brake, just before the rumble strips. In real life, Jeremy Clarkson tested it. His balls wouldn't let him brake that close, but even though in the game he knew he had plenty of time.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. You know, the other side of that is, and I've not tried this, but if you lack common sense, or really don't give a shit how hard you throw it into a corner, then you might discover that maybe the brakes on a video game don't take into account the weather that particular day, and your braking point is slightly earlier because the track's a little bit wetter, a little bit moister. The tyres are not quite as warm as you'd want them to be.
And
the brakes are warmer than you'd want them to be.
And that is why I only use the game to learn the layout rather than... Because you still do... Like, I'd never been there before, so I still do my sighting laps and I still build my speed up as we're going along. But I knew roughly where the track was going. It wasn't like I was going down the straight and it's like, where's the next corner, where's the next corner? I already know it was a right-hander into the first corner. I already knew it was there and I already knew it was coming up, but I just had to tune myself to my car and pick my braking points.
I mean, I'm not into sim racing, so I know you guys are, but you guys predominantly play Assetto anyway, don't you?
Purely, I think it's quite an old game now, isn't it, Bryn? I don't know when it came out.
It is reasonably old.
The graphics, being honest, aren't the best, and
it's not a game designed for graphics though.
No, but the fact is, it's mostly all mods now, isn't it, Bryn?
Yeah, I genuinely do not know when the last time I used a piece of native content in that game was. Everything we do is all mods, and that's why it's become so big.
Because you don't have to pay for DLC and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons I love PC gaming. Everything I play is on a PC apart from the odd exclusive or some retro stuff. Purely because if there's something you don't quite like, there's probably a mod for it because somebody else doesn't like it.
I think that's the thing for me. Like I do very little PC gaming unless I can only get the game on PC because of who I used to work for. I was just around gaming PCs all day, and I kind of wanted to get home and have a break from my day job. So I do a lot of console gaming, and I don't feel like sim racing works on a console. You can never get. There's never anything powerful enough to process what it needs to process to make it feel realistic.
I don't know. I think
you can get Assetto on.
Yeah.
I think both PS4 and Xbox, and
Yeah.
obviously you can get plug-in steering wheels and that, so you can make it work. I mean, you've got PlayStation
You can
VR.
make it work, but again, you've got to remember that the reality of me having worked where I worked is I was spoilt with the toys that I got to play with in the office during the day.
Even now, my PC isn't.
And being blunt, I can't afford a 25 grand gaming PC that's sat on 10 grand's worth of sim. Sim.
Don't
Rick
need
Sim
that.
Rick.
You don't need to spend that
No, I
much.
know you don't.
I am-
But
I'm on the bare minimum at the moment.
yeah,
I'm
but
just-
I would go on to what you're on now, Milton, and kind of go a little bit. Oh, that's a bit shit. That's not as good as I remember it being. It's like when you go and play retro video games now.
Depends what you want it for, though, because like when you're playing a Seto with all the boys and you're on fucking Rockingham or something, and you've got some spazzy Nissans, like it doesn't matter what you've got. I've got this like 250 quid gaming PC that I bought from some kid in Rugby years ago. This is my handbrake. It is half an Xbox controller screwed to a bit of wood with a spring for the handbrake mechanism. You don't need anything fancy because it's all about the actual driving you're doing. And it is wild.
And this is something that applies to all gaming as a blanket, is the gameplay experience is more important than the graphics.
Oh, yeah.
All day long.
Especially the homosexual butter club.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Team Incomplete, which Milton is now an honorary member of, the MX5 boys from Rockingham. And yeah,
Need to
you
pay-
crash into your mates all night, and it's great because you crash into your mates. And
You
then
press X.
Is this where you're telling me get a steering wheel, get a set of pedals, and sit at your desk?
It's
Well,
Yeah.
so much fun.
Bryn, there might be someone that's selling a Logitech steering wheel.
Oh yeah, this guy, because like he spent about a week on it, and I was bought the better gaming wheel, whereas I've still got.
Big-
Yeah, I may talk to you about that when we're
we'll
done
talk
here.
about that after the episode then, Milton. Because I'll also decide whether or not Matt gets a bonus on whether or not I buy that.
But I mean, yeah, Seto is fantastic. All the mods, you could do whatever you want, and you know the physics in the game are pretty good. And then people have carried on, modified it to do what you want. There's so many different tires out there. People getting all the tire physics. There's various different kinds of car pack, and yeah,
No, I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident the laptop that we use, because obviously I built a laptop for render and editing for when we go to shows.
Oh, that'll be
and when
more than powerful enough.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. Completely aware of that. You know, so other than Assetto, then racing sim games. What else? What else are we talking about? What?
Well, if you want to, Assetto is good for. I don't know how
think
good it is for
Seto's better
racing.
drifting.
it is very good for racing, especially the new one, Competizione. A lot of the guys have bought that, so they don't race on Assetto, they race on the new one, and
Okay.
it's meant to be absolutely fantastic.
There's iRacing. That's if you really want to get really. We're talking that one. You have to pay for a season pass, and you have to pay for the cars and the tracks, and gets very expensive, and it's very competitive, and you've got a thing called a safety record. So if you're that guy that goes first corner, you're starting last, and you try and crash through everyone, you get a bad rating, and you get put in the lobby with the crashers. But if you're clean, you slowly build it up, and you eventually get to the people that you get inches away from your bumper but never crash.
The fair races, yeah. But I think
Thinking about it, another one that I'd probably class in the sim category, and I played many moons ago, when I was but a wee tiny bam, is I used to play F1 games on my PS2 with
yeah.
the pedal and steering wheel setup.
I think the thing with Formula One games is they're tunable to be arcade games because you can have all the assists and stuff turned on. You can turn off fuel and tires and all of that. But you can go all the way the other way and have realistic tires, realistic fuel, realistic damage.
Time
I
as
think
well.
I think you can turn on mechanical failures as well.
Yeah,
to that
kind of,
extent.
and how long the races are.
Yeah, and you can do
25% and stuff.
I love the fact that you can sit and do full race weekends, so you can have all 3 practice sessions at an hour and a half per one, proper qualifying sessions and full length races. Like you can sit there for a full day playing
A
one
weekend.
race weekend.
As if you are a Formula 1 driver.
So
Yeah, and
well, not as if you're a Formula One driver. Really. The
From the same
champagne's
town.
not real. Unless you're keeping your own champagne next to it for the win of every race.
yeah, of course you are. Got to keep got to keep it real.
So basically what we're saying is, as far as you guys are concerned, Assetto and now and again an F1 racing sim.
I played a little bit of the first Project Cars.
Yeah.
That's it's got a little bit of a following. It's not as good as Assetto. I think Assetto and iRacing is one of the better ones.
Project Cars is a lot of fun with a wheel. Without a wheel, it's very, very
it's
unforgiving.
twitchy.
Yeah, I tried Project Cars on console with a controller, and was
You get a small bit of oversteer.
It got maybe 4 hours of my attention before it was traded in.
Yeah,
I think one of the other ones I've seen floated around for Sims is Live for Speed as well.
But
that's pretty good for drifting.
What I am going to do now is being conscious of the fact that from our viewer stats, by the way, by this point in the episode, everyone who's not going to watch to the end has dropped off. So now the people that have continued to watch with us can have a reward, and we're going to stop talking about boring sim racing.
We go to my favourite one.
What's your favourite one? Quickly, Milton.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So we've got rid of everyone who's going to bore easily and doesn't want to hear what we say every week, and we're rewarding you guys now that have hung around. So we've still got a couple of things to talk about, and the first one we're going to get onto is we're going to go a little bit old school, a little bit retro. We know what you're all waiting for us to say, by the way, and you need to hang about till the end for us to say it. But we're going to look at family-friendly, fun racing games, really casual gamery stuff, right?
And I think the king of all of those is Mario Kart.
Yeah, you can't argue with it, right? You've got awesome games in that space, though. You've got... Does anyone remember the old Micro Machines game?
Yeah.
That was a classic top-down.
Yeah.
There's not many top-down racing games from memory.
Again, like, Milton's making me feel old because he doesn't remember the era of top-down racing and 2D racing games where you're just in the car and all you've got is the road in front of you and you've got to weave out of the way of traffic.
Yeah, I remember. I remember classic games where there was 3 lanes and you just moved, weaving out of traffic and stuff like that.
Kid's toy that you had that wasn't even a computer; it was just a
had
belt
a gear
with
stick.
cars that come round it.
Yeah,
and you just had that's all that video game was. But so you've got those kind of things, and you've got
Crash Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot.
Tag racing, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah.
But quick one, who was your favourite Mario Kart racer? Just not worry about stats or anything, just because who it was.
Any
Bam.
dinosaur.
Bam, who was your?
What was that, Bryn?
Any dinosaur. Bowser was the king. Yoshi was Dry Bones is just, he's some bones.
Oh, I forgot about Dry Bones.
Because it's so wank.
I'm with Bryn on this. I'm a Bowser and Yoshi man. Like that's it.
To a point where you name
occasionally to spice it up a bit, Toad.
I like Toad.
I've raced with Toad. My main pick was always Luigi, but you like Bowser so much you named your dog after him.
Yes, Bowser was named after Bowser from because when Amy got him, Bowser was a pre-me dog, and when Amy got him, he ran into the house and completely wiped out Jasmine, one of the other dogs, full Mario Kart style, just stacked into her, wiped her out. Yeah, and that's why he was called Bowser. Obviously, sadly not with us anymore. Luna, the bulldog that replaced him, is called Luna because she's a complete lunatic. But yeah. Bowser was by far and away one of the best characters. Yoshi, great for like if you need a lightweight character just to get out in front.
Toad was my lightweight character.
Battle mode. If you pick anyone,
with the balloons.
Yeah. If you pick anyone other than Bowser in battle mode.
Do you remember playing it on Mario on your DS and you had the microphone? If your balloons started to go down, you'd be like,
yeah, I remember that. That was a stupid mechanic.
So you look like a right sweat, and then.
If I remember rightly, you started with 3 inflated balloons. You couldn't have more than 3, but you had 2 in reserve. So if you popped one, you could inflate another one.
Yeah.
But the microphone was not the best, was it? So it did most. You're sitting and you just look like you're having an asthmatic attack.
That's Nintendo with their weird gaming mechanics. I think while we're on the subject actually of Nintendo, really important point about Nintendo. The only time Nintendo make a good console is when it takes a cartridge. So bear with me on this, right? NES takes cartridge, good console. SNES takes cartridge, good console. N64 takes cartridge, good console. GameCube takes disc, not good console. Wii takes disc, just focused all around making you not fat, not good console. Switch takes cartridge and is good console.
You can even go back Game
The
Boys.
Yep.
The thing I love about that is Nintendo's worst ever console. You've completely glossed over and forgotten exists.
Don't say it. It doesn't even deserve to get any Google Analytics.
We'll let him
Don't
say
say
it. As long as he
I'm waiting for
understands.
Bryn. I'm seeing if Bryn can work it out now.
As long as he understands that the first person to say the name of it during this episode, when we can get back together again, we are playing a game of how hard can Bam punch over it.
Can you work it out, Bryn?
I'll never get it.
Oh, he's already said half of it, and Bryn's Milton said the other half. So, I take
You get it.
Oh, right.
the thing is, I like all the Nintendo consoles. I like all of their consoles. Like I've got a GameCube and I've got a Wii, and I liked my Wii. And I've recently bought another GameCube, so I like the GameCube games. Like they had Luigi's Mansion and Mario Sunshine, and they're one of my all-time favorite games. But I agree with your point where the consoles that take cartridges are better than those two consoles as a whole.
Yeah.
There's just individual gems that I like on both.
And see,
And-
ladies and gentlemen, what he's done is not reminded you of that complete and utter atrocity that we're all not mentioning.
You have to
To a point where that console was such a flop, what they're doing is taking the games that came out on that and putting them out on the Switch instead.
Speaking of family arcade games, back on topic of racing games.
Yeah.
And Bam, you're going to need to put a theme music for this one.
All right.
And Matt reminded me of this one.
Yeah.
Lego Racers.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing I loved about that is you could build your own car out of Lego, and it didn't matter what shape it was still the same speed.
Yeah.
So you
And
could
it
build
was-
a sleek aerodynamic F1 style looking car or just a block, and they still went as fast as each other.
And that's actually a really important lesson that I learned for real life when I bought a toaster, and then had my illusion shattered because it's slow. Real
What do you mean? I thought it.
air resistance is a thing, right?
Yeah.
and here
Especially
is
on like a crosswindy day.
Yeah, the only way Matt's been out in the Spike a few times, and Matt will be able to confirm for you most of the power of that car is spent punching its way through air.
Yeah.
Lego Racers, like the building your car mechanic, and one of the only games, well, one of the first games that as a child there was a real reward for putting time into, because you had to build the cars and you could only get the bricks from certain levels. If you wanted pirate ship bricks, you had to be fucking good at that pirate ship level, and you would do that level over and over and over again until you won, just so that you could have the really crappy little pirate bricks. And your parents would be like, gee, wonderful, can we watch TV now? You've got the ship.
You're right. I don't think any game really, like, you can go into it, you know. I think there was even a Sonic racing game.
Yeah.
Very
I
Mario
remember
Kart
that.
copy.
Yeah. But the reality is you are never going to get away from the fact that if you want a family-friendly racing game, you go out and buy a Switch. I still play Mario Kart 64, right?
Yeah.
And on the subject of that, like, it's aged, but it's not aged as badly as some N64 games. So, because I've got this retro collection of consoles and, like, people are getting back into it because of lockdown, really important public service announcement for those of you who loved GoldenEye. Don't buy it, don't play it, don't plug it into a 50-inch telly. Just don't do it. Do not do it. So I introduced it. I was like, I turned around to Amy, was like, we're going to get GoldenEye. GoldenEye's amazing. GoldenEye's brilliant. Let's play GoldenEye. GoldenEye. And she was like, why were you so excited about this? What is this shit? And I was sat there playing it, and I was trying to look for an excuse to be like, it's good, honest. And I was like, no, this hasn't aged well.
The weird thing is, some games age really badly, like GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And some of them don't seem to age at all. Like, I can still play the original Mario 64 on N64, and that still plays fine. But stuff like GoldenEye, it's just garbage now.
I think we let certain games back in the day get away on this point that we've said before about gameplay versus graphics.
Yeah.
And I think GoldenEye actually was probably one of those games where we turned around and we went, the gameplay is better than graphics and we'll allow it. But because the gameplay was better than the graphics, now the gameplay isn't good enough.
I think the other thing you have to remember is when you go back and play games that you played when you were a kid, the memories you have of it aren't just of the game, it's the nostalgia that it makes you feel.
Speaking of games that I played as a kid, if anyone's got Pokemon Stadium for the N64, drop me a message.
I bet he does.
If he's got Pokemon Stadium for the N64, his house is getting robbed tonight.
Do you mean he
Somewhere,
passed his probation?
They never did Pokemon races.
But don't they occasionally? Are they not in the Mario? It's Nintendo.
No.
Nintendo character. No. Okay.
They are in Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, they're in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I've got Pokemon Stadium there somewhere.
So really importantly, Nintendo.
Matt, you've passed your probation.
Nintendo, please, we want Pokemon races.
No, we don't.
We
No,
do.
we really
No, but think about it, Brent. You could use the types of Pokemon for what powers the cars. So you could have like Pikachu powering a little electric car. He can't argue with this point now. He's like,
No, because I'm
shit,
thinking
the
of
idiot's won again.
I'm thinking of track design, because if you've got a water Pokemon, you could take the water shortcuts.
yeah.
If you've got a ground type, you're really good off road.
Yeah.
Nintendo, you can't have this. We came up with it.
No, Matt, Brent even, wrong thing to say to Nintendo. Nintendo, can we have a license to develop this?
Yeah.
We've got
They'll
race
let you
cars to
develop
pay
it, let's
for,
sue
and
you
we
for
can
it.
do it by building race cars out of your Pokemon.
Won't be influencers for it, please.
Yeah. If you start developing this, or you are developing this, Nintendo, please let us have a go.
You heard it here first.
Because your fire types, they'd all be like the internal combustion engines. All your electrics would all be electric powered, and you couldn't drive your electric one on water. And you couldn't drive your fire one on water, but your water types can take the water shortcuts, as Milton says. Earth type's really good off-road.
We are
Flyers,
way off topic now.
Flyers can jump pretty high, or they can take like air shortcuts,
Yeah.
like Mario Kart style.
Yeah, you can
This
take the
actually
ski jump,
doesn't
and
sound
you won't
right.
necessarily make the ski jump if you're not an air type.
This
This isn't
actually
off topic,
doesn't
Matt.
sound
This is bang on. This is cutting edge gaming now. This is games that don't even exist yet.
So back on topic. So we've done the family, we've done Sim.
Yeah, totally agree. So
Now we need to get to the
arcade.
core arcade.
Riders on the Storm is what you're trying to say.
No, we're not, Matt. We're gonna throw some stuff
Riders
out there. We're
off
gonna
the
throw some stuff out there.
storm.
So we're gonna go back to the PS2.
No particular order of this, by the way.
There is a particular order of this, and we'll tell you which
We don't
one's
agree
the
on it.
best one
You're
of all
wrong.
time shortly. But you already know the answer, so there's no there's not a lot of point. Like the realistic thing is, right, so Street Racing Syndicate is a game I played a lot on PS2, and it has not, again, it's one of those that's not aged that well, but you can get it on Steam now, and it's a bit of a good laugh to play with a controller, right? Better than Street Racing Syndicate was Juiced.
Juice 2 was pretty good.
Juiced 2 is pretty good, but Juiced had this really interesting mechanic that you don't get in street racing games normally, where you can build a team and you can send your team out driving the cars you've built to get money. So what you would do is, if you were running about and doing stuff in the house because you were little and you had chores to do because your parents would do them, you'd set a race away to make money so you could get more money from mods in the background.
I like B-Spec in Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
I remember that being so infuriating. You'd be like, yes, I'm going to win. Why have you just driven into the end of the pit wall, you fucking moron?
George, if we're talking about really irritating things in Gran Turismo, we've got to talk about the licenses.
Oh,
Or just the soft lounge jazz in the fucking
So
menu.
if you've never played Gran Turismo, they
Yeah.
had very similar to how real world racing works. Is they had license grading, and you had to pass certain things. So one of the first ones was accelerate from like down 1,000-meter strip and stop within this box at the end within a certain time limit to pass and stuff like that. To earn your license, meaning you could go and do the more advanced races and the fast cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you would do it and miss out by 0.001 of a second, and you'd be doing it for hours.
So Gran Turismo to me has always been that point where you cross from arcade into sim. I think it's too IRL-y, right, to be
arcade.
I think it's closer
I don't think it's a good enough sim racer to be a sim racer.
Yeah, I think it's between the two, but it's closer to arcade than it is sim. But it's at that, and similar to Forza Motorsport, it's that genre of game where it's some of the sim stuff starting to creep in.
Yeah.
Because if you want to go that far, you can start fiddling with your wheel alignment and suspension setup and gearing and all of that stuff. But you don't have to. You can leave it at the start.
It just takes it too far. So another game that got it really right in the 90s, maybe early 2000s. I can't remember when Midnight Club Dub Edition was released, but that was a good arcade game. You had muscle cars, you had tuner cars, you had bikes.
Bikes, yeah.
You had VIP and you had off-road. You could have a little collection.
I think that period of gaming and street racing specifically was the best. That sort of early 2000 stage with Need for Speed Underground, Underground 2, Carbon, and all of those. That was the best era for street racing. Since then, it's not been as good.
I think the real problem with that is like you do get street racing games out now, but they're just all about supercars. How quickly can I get into a supercar?
I don't want to race a supercar. No, I want to drive a Corsa, Saxo, even an old Golf.
Yeah, I remember in Pro Street. I remember Pro Street, what a game! But I remember buying that, and the first car you get in is that battered S13 with the different coloured panels, and I remember being like, "Oh, look at that! It's got a red door! Oh, that's so cool!"
Brian Cooper.
And this is the thing about that era of game, though. That era of game, that early 2000s, you didn't get to the end of the game, and the arsehole at the end of the game had a Lambo, and you couldn't beat him in your shitbox Hot Boy, right? You could go there with your CRX from the beginning of Juiced, right? So Juiced, you start the game every time with a CRX. Pretty sure Underground 2, I started every single time with either Peugeot 206 or a Citroen Saxo.
206, yeah, I remember that.
But you could run those cars right to the end game.
That's a good point, because I recently watched GDQ, so Games Done Quick. It's a thing they have every year for charity and stuff, and it's all speed running. And Need for Speed Most Wanted was on, I think it was this year.
It's been on a few times, but yeah.
Yeah, the speed run strat for that is take the Golf that you get at the very start of the game and modify it. Don't sell it and buy something else. Just modify the one Golf.
It's actually, you modify it. You don't modify it at all until you unlock stage, like the high performance ones. You don't do anything until you can buy all of them at once.
Yeah, and then you put them all on, and then you
got all of stage 3.
And on that, one thing I remember, like with Pro Street, it might have just been the cars that I picked, but yeah, you could get to the end with like the early cars and just upgrade them. But they became more and more difficult to drive, even though they were crazy fast. I distinctly remember defeating like the last guy in my Escort Cosworth that had some stupid amount of power. But my God, it was literally like rolling the dice every corner. I'm either going to get around this or I'm going to have a horrible crash and have to restart and see if I get around that corner next time.
But when you restart, you don't do that race again. You've got to do the 3 races before.
Yeah.
But that's actually a really important point, because if you really wanted to, if you really committed to it, you could build an MX-5 that could outperform a Lambo, but you are not having a fun time driving that hot boy, right? It is going to be the scariest thing you've ever driven.
But that was one of the things I learned very early on, because I was getting into Forza Motorsport 4 around the same time I was getting into modifying cars, which meant I was learning a lot of what I was learning about cars on Forza Motorsport, to a point where my 400 horsepower Ford Fiesta could outperform supercars purely because I was putting all my money and effort into handling and tuning the setup. So the supercars would get to the first braking zone and brake at 200 meters, and I'd just sail past all 8 of them and brake at 50 meters and then disappear off into the distance before they could catch me.
Yeah, with a cheeky bit of nitrous as well. When you come out the corner, you're out accelerating the supercars. Like,
If we're going
and
to talk
that
about
was a really important thing about all of those games, right? You had nitrous, you had a massive sound system that you just wouldn't put in anything you actually wanted to street race in the real world. And yeah, you just like, and they were from that Max Power era, so the body kits were bonkers.
Yeah.
Absolutely bonkers body kits. And that was awesome.
That reminds me though, because that was one of the things that you had in Underground 2, was you had obviously your normal street racing stuff and all the rest of it, but if I remember rightly, you had to take your car and you had visual ratings at the same time.
Yeah.
visual
And you
impact.
and you had like photo shoots for magazines, so you had NOS purges in different colours along with all your graphics and everything.
I am going to dare
Yeah,
to
that
throw
was good.
something out there now, right? I noticed that we started to see this drop off in visual shit in car modifying, and now that I think about it, I'm going to blame it all on the Need for Speed developers. The moment they
But-
took that rating out, right? Right? We know what you fucking did, EA. It's your fault. It's not
But
in
Bam,
the game.
can
It
I say a
affected
really
the
important
real
thing?
world. What was that, Milton?
Important thing though,
What?
putting your car on big wheels and lowering it doesn't make it good.
Don't care.
That
Bring
never
back-
affected
bring back
performance that much
spinners
though.
and mental fiberglass body kits and underglow and far
Those
too many
skinny
speakers in the
bonnets that
boot.
open like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And do you know what
I
else?
always
Do you know what else we don't see enough of anymore? Candy floss machines in the back of cars.
What game was that?
That
To
wasn't
a-
a game. That was done on Pimp My Ride.
Of course it was.
Literally,
see that
they use the wheel, the spare wheel well in the boot to put a candy floss maker in it on one of the builds. But that bonkers era, right, of the Max Power era, as we call it over here, and for anyone who's watched it in Australia, you call it sex spec. You know,
Too
like
sexy. Twisted. Hi.
yeah. Give us a like and a subscribe, please.
You have no idea who that is, do you, Ben?
I do know who that is. It's
Oh,
Mighty
wait.
Car Mods. I'm not
I
an
didn't think you
idiot.
was...
yeah.
I was going to
thought
do
you was
a
old,
whole
sorry.
nice thing. Now I'm not, and it's all your fault because you interrupted me.
Sorry.
So Marty and co, it is all Milton's fault for interrupting me. I apologise. But if you are watching, give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll gloat about it in an episode in the future.
I bought merch, so I'm allowed to do it. I bought merch. So.
Hang on a minute. You just take free merch from us all the time. You'll give them money, but not us.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful behaviour from
Well,
Milton.
Snoop Dogg, by the way.
Going back on to topic,
Yeah, back on
moving
topic.
a little bit towards open world games.
Yeah.
Burnout Paradise.
Burnout fucking paradise. What a game.
Burnout-
I love the
Burnout-
entire
I don't
Burnout
think-
series.
I don't think of Burnout as a racing game. I think of Burnout
Agree.
as a crashing game.
That's one of the things that made it unique compared to everything else. My Burnout game was 3, which was called Takedown. But I love the crash ones where you drive into a junction and just make as much carnage as you possibly could.
And you had a crash breaker meter, so when you
so you could
X-cars
blow
blew up,
yourself up.
you
Yeah,
blew up again, and you could after
After
crash.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Aftertouch. Yeah,
I'm
so
really
if
showing
you
how
were-
much of a nerd I am.
if you were playing the normal races, which is racing, and somebody took you out, you could bounce off the barrier and in slow motion steer yourself into somebody else and take them out at the same time.
Can I just clarify? If you do that on track or Mexico, you are a fucking dickhead.
It doesn't work in
After
real
touch.
life, though.
You can't do after touch in real life, Ben.
Right, if you fuck it up on a track or on the road and you try and aim for the person that's about to beat you, you're a prick. You're a grade A bellend, and you deserve everything that comes to you after that moment.
I have a really good point. Sorry, go on, Bryn. I'll let you go first.
What I was just going to ask actually is was Burnout the first of those open world collectible style driving games like that?
What do you mean?
It's the first one I remember.
So open world wise, Need for Speed Underground 2 was open world.
Yeah, but that was
It
like
didn't really have collectibles though, did it?
that's the
Well,
thing.
yeah,
There was
'cause
a lot.
you had to drive around the track and find like specific shops for specific stuff and.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's better that. But like Burnout, there was just so much to do in the open world, finding all the billboards.
Oh,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
That's an inherent Need for Speed thing because that's in the current game.
Mm.
But the only other open world game I can think of with collectibles is Simpsons Hit and Run, but that's not a racing game.
No, that's
No.
that's GTA, but with cartoon.
PG family.
Shit,
Yeah,
geez.
PG GTA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cross it and that when you're drunk.
Getting back to open world stuff, I think when we talk about Need for Speed, and quite frankly, the king of arcade games is Need for Speed. We can't get away from that.
Until they got to carbon.
I think Forza Horizon has taken that crown.
Or yeah,
I think you're wrong.
maybe.
I think you're wrong.
I've played
uh,
both of the most recent games, Forza Horizon 4 and Need for Speed Heat, and I prefer Horizon massively over Heat.
So would you rather? So this is the ultimate answer to this question, right, Matt? Would you rather play Need for Speed Underground 2 or Horizon 4?
Depends why.
No. Would you rather play it? There's no why
Horizon
about
4.
this.
'Cause
Horizon 4.
Horizon you can play with friends.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's not as fun as Underground 2.
There's not as many visual modifications,
Mm.
but there is more cars in there. There's more content, and I can drive around in a Lego McLaren Senna. So
Or
Yeah, that's the thing,
15 Mustangs. There's
Yeah.
15 Mustangs in Horizon 4, by the way.
Forza Horizon 4 is much better Horizon. I did have Horizon for a while when I lived with Will and he had an Xbox. It's a much better open world driving game. I do not play Need for Speed for the driving. The driving is kind of shit. But the modifying cars is really, really fun.
yeah.
Horizon, you play it for the driving, and the modifying cars is all performance based, really.
Yeah, you can't really put body kits and stuff in. There's a few visual options, like I built a 1200 horsepower off-road Range Rover that looked like a police car, and you can put like bull bars on the front and stuff like that. But that's about as far as the visuals go.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like Forza's always been, you can put a lip on the front and a wing on the back, and that's about your limit.
No,
Also-
I think I would dare to say my favourite open world driving game of them all is because you're right. Need for Speed got bad, and I would even go as far as Carbon. I would say Need for Speed dropped off a fucking cliff after Underground 2.
I think by Carbon it was already on its way down.
They had
Yeah.
this brief blip on what I think. I can't remember what year it was released, but they've just called it Need for Speed again, and it had Ken Block, Nakai-san, and Magnus Walker.
Von Gittin was on it as well, I think.
Yes, he was.
It must have been like 15, 16 when they revived the franchise.
Yeah, and that game was awesome. That is everything that I look for in a driving game.
Until you tried to adjust the camber.
2015. I'm not doing the Canberra rant again. Like,
I'll sum up for you. No. Yes.
Yes, something like that.
Yes, but unlike the real world where I have to run -6 degrees of camber on the stage just to fit the wheels in, I'm not a massive camber fan. Like,
even less in that game. They just that it was really good. I remember being so excited when they were talking about.
I remember you being that excited.
Yeah, and everyone was, because it was like, oh my god, they're doing what everybody asked for. We're going back to modifying cars. They've got this fucking cool as shit like Night City vibe going on.
Yep.
And they were listening to what people wanted, but then they didn't do it right. The people who programmed the game were not proper petrol heads, because they did the things we want, but they did them wrong.
Could
Great-
we dare to
great
say that,
idea,
Brent,
poor
could we dare to
excuse.
say that they just weren't Stancy boys?
Maybe, but they tried to put those features in and
It
did
was
it.
it was a great idea, but it was poorly executed.
Yeah,
I think it was well enough executed to say that still Need for Speed Underground 2 is my favourite driving game ever, right? I know it's arcadey as shit, but I can make a Peugeot 6 go faster than a supercar, so...
And you
I-
could do
I
drift.
think-
You could do the drift events in front wheel drive cars.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
fun.
There's that
Somehow.
and they had
Yeah.
Street X, which is a thing you don't see. Really similar to kind of Auto Solo and Jim.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That, if I remember rightly, they took the little drift circuits and they just had you race on them instead.
Yeah, so that's kind of that's a fun
fun.
little thing, right?
I think it was more akin to Rallycross, but on tarmac.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what Street
Tight,
so
twisty,
Street Cross had
short
this
circuits.
weird little bit of being moderately popular in the States, and was
Oh, was
basically
real?
rallycross
Yeah.
on a short street circuit.
Yeah.
But like, and then Jim Carner blew up, and you're like, yeah, and barrel sprinting, and it's a similar concept. It's a really short sprint course where you
Actually, speaking of Jim Carner, you've just reminded me of another arcade game that's quite fun. Is the Dirt series.
Yeah.
yes, yeah, I'll give that.
I'd like to point out, as Bam brought it up, undefeated barrel sprint champion, never will be beaten again. It's never come back.
King of the bins forever.
So we've talked a lot about like what we like to play tonight. I think for me, greatest family game is Mario Kart on the N64,
Oh, yeah, hands
and I
down.
will fight anyone who wants to argue anything other than Mario Kart 64.
I think Mario Kart as a whole is a fantastic family racing game. I think 64 was the sort of peak.
I was about to say, I was really curious if Matt was itching for a fight there.
No, you got his P45.
I like all the 64, all the Mario Kart games.
64 is the best one though.
I think so.
And then otherwise, I'm not a massive fan of sim racing. I'll be honest. Most years I can get out on the track in my car. You know,
That's enough for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But arcade, it's got to be Underground 2, and the 2015 release of Need for Speed are like the three, and they're almost interchangeable. The 2015 release of Need for Speed marginally edges in there just because of its graphics are slightly better than the older two. It has, it's got the camber issue that Bryn's mentioned. Yeah, that one, Mills.
Yeah, that.
But I don't put camber on cars, so it's not a problem for me, personally. Milton, what about you? What are your, if you're going to go out and buy a racing game tomorrow, buy it?
Thing is, it doesn't exist. Well, it does, but the community behind it doesn't really. It's Forza Motorsport 4. I spent a lot of my... it was technically young adult life, but every Sunday night was race night. Everyone was on the forums and talking about it in the week. You had qualifying. That was just it was a made-up championship that we all chose the tracks and all chose the cars, and the cars were built by like 5 or 6 people who knew how to build the cars. They would tune them so some would be faster on the straight, some would be better in the corners, but over a lap there wasn't much difference. So we did our own touring car championship, and I've got so many good memories of racing with friends and meeting up. And me and one of my mates actually met 3 other racers at one of the touring car tracks. We'd never met him in real life, and we was having his 50th birthday.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah.
But it was good memories but it just doesn't really exist anymore. or
Matt.
that doesn't anyway.
Matt, what about you? What are you?
I see. With racing games, I tend not to go back and play the old stuff
Yeah.
purely because you go back to the early 90s racing games and they're just awful, especially compared to the modern games. So I tend to play the more modern version. So if I want to play Need for Speed, for example, I went out and bought Need for Speed Heat and I wanted to play the more modern version of that. And first lockdown, I had a lot of fun playing Forza Horizon 4. And that's sort of Forza Horizon or Forza Motorsport or Horizon, whichever you want to play. That's the one I play the most. Need for Speed's been a bit recently, but that and Mario Kart obviously can't be a bit of Mario Kart.
Bryn?
But there's so many. It's all the memories of all the good ones. Like Burnout Paradise was fucking amazing, and I had Road Trip Adventure when I was a kid. These little Koro cars that you get in Japan. That was incredible. Like I remember, my housemate had Forza Horizon 3, and that was the first Forza Horizon I played, and I have distinct memories of the intro coming on with Fred V and graphics, Constellations, I think it's called. And just sitting there watching this intro and just being like, this is going to be the most fun I'm going to have for a long time. And it was. And like Gran Turismo, like all of them, all the racing games. I want them all.
I think a thing we can all completely agree on, though, is Nintendo need to give us some money and a bunch of developers so that we can build Pokemon racing.
Yeah.
Pokekart, there you go. There's the name for it as well. Pokekart, right? And the best racer in the whole game will be Magikarp, just so that it finally has
Pokeartmon.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, best racer in the whole game has to be Magikarp because no one will ever choose it.
You can evolve your racers as you go through the game.
Yep.
This is something we need to pick up on a future episode.
You say that, Brent. They did that in Digimon Racing.
There was a Digimon Racing?
What?
Yes.
What?
It was that sort of late 90s, early 2000 period where everything had a kart racing game.
Except for Pokemon. Why did Pokemon not get one? Right, but as a genuine thing, guys, so as always, we really appreciate you watching the episode to the end. Smash the like button. Leave a comment down below of stuff you'd like to talk about in the future. We reply to everything.
Point at stuff.
As always, subscribe. Hit the notify bell as well. We work when we do the premiere every week. We're all on there. So if you've got questions during the premiere, we'll answer them for you. And it's why we do it as a premiere, so we can interact with you guys. We are going to start looking at uploading these to Spotify. It's something some people have asked us for outside of YouTube through the Facebook page. Down below, if you want to support things, there is some merch stuff. Next week's episode, given we've not revealed something about an episode, next week's episode is on Budget Motorsport. We've got a good friend of ours, Nick, joining us from, Matt's going to remind me now because my brain's melted.
Club Racing UK.
Club Racing UK, there we go. Who have also, just going to throw it out there, some of our stickers are good luck. They bought our government advisory sticker, the Hit Apex Win Race one that we did, the COVID-19 themed one, and immediately won a race after putting it in their car. Now, I'm not saying that we won that race for them, but we did. They've also got a YouTube channel, so next week that'll be in the link below for you to go and check out. Really cool guys, and we're just going to talk like, how do you get into entry-level motorsport? What cars are cool to take? What cars aren't cool to take?
Well, we know the answer to that. It's the MX-5.
Yeah, the answer is always MX-5. Yeah. So finishing an episode, as we finish every episode, even in racing games, the answer is MX-5. And I've been Bam. He's been Milton.
Bye.
He's been Bryn. He's been Matt.
Bye.
And we'll see you all next week. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.